Dear Commission members, my name is John Anderson, and I've been a staff photographer with the Austin Chronicle for 13 years and have worked as a professional photojournalist for 23 years. I've never been arrested, I pay property taxes, and I'm a regular voter. I come before you today to bring attention to an APD practice that I believe violates their own policies regarding taking field photographs while on duty. As part of my job, I cover many political protests, demonstrations, and rallies. Starting during the Iraq War protests of 2003, myself and others began seeing APD officers taking photos and videos of protesters. This is a photo from the spring of 2003 during Iraq War protests. But when the Occupy movement started locally, I saw this practice return in a greater form, and this time APD officers started taking photos and videos of me, as well as protesters. In an effort to determine where these photos end up, I filed an open records request with the Austin Police Department and received 6 photos and 1 video. One of those photos was of me and was taken by APD Commander Jason Dusterhoff. This is a photo I took with Commander Dusterhoff taking my picture. And this is a picture of me that I received through the open record request that Commander Dusterhoff took. I don't know for sure yet where these photos are stored, but if I understand the process correctly, I believe they're held at the local Fusion Center, the Austin Regional Intelligence Center, or ARIC. It's worth mentioning that a congressional report released in October 2012 was very critical of these centers. In that report, U.S. Senator Tom Coburn, the subcommittee's ranking member who initiated the investigation, wrote, quote, "It's troubling that the very fusion centers that were designed to share information in a post-9/11 world have become part of the problem. Instead of strengthening our counterterrorism efforts, they have too often wasted money and stepped on American civil liberties." I believe this commission is aware of APD's infiltration of Occupy Austin. This photo was taken in the parking garage under this building during that period. In light of the situation of the infiltration, I'm asking this commission to investigate the practice of photographing peaceful protesters and journalists exercising their First Amendment protected activity. Specifically, I'm asking why these photos are taken, stored, and for what purpose. I also ask the commission to investigate if APD is violating their own policy with this practice. Thank you.
Questions? Commissioner Rosmo.
Sir, in your information request, did you obtain any documents or writings in regard to those photographs of yourself?
No, I did not.
Is that because there wasn't any, or?
All I got back were the photos and the video.
Okay.
And I think that was because they said there was nothing in writing.
Okay. 2 points I want to make. The first of all is we have to distinguish between how ARIC functions and how most of the counterterrorism fusion centers function. And ARIC was actually set up to deal with crime issues, not with terrorism issues specifically. And that was partly in response to the inefficiencies of those systems. The second point I would like to make is that, having worked in police intelligence myself, I know that about 80% of the information intelligence centers gather is open source information. Mm-hmm. So if you really wanted to prevent pictures from being obtained by intelligence entities, you'd have to keep them out of the press, out of the newspapers, out of the nightly news, etc. So whether or not they took pictures of you specifically, and we don't know anything about why that was done because there's no writing. There's no real way to keep pictures of protesters out unless they're not published in any form of media.
Keep them out?
Out of intelligence centers, because they're going to access newspapers, they're going to have clipping services, they're going to be able to access anything that's in the public domain, and that's probably the majority of what they do. So for every picture they take themselves, they probably have 100 pictures that come from newspapers.
pictures they take come from newspapers? I'm unclear on that.
Okay,
But-
intelligence entities gather most of their information from open source information,
right,
which is
newspapers.
primarily the
Okay.
news media. So if you don't want them to collect pictures of protesters, you somehow have to prevent newspapers from taking pictures of protesters. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, I don't. I've read the APD policy, and what I've read is that, well, I don't have it in front of me, but that there needs to be a reason for taking those photographs. I mean, a legitimate reason.
Well, that's why I was asking about the writing. But what I'm saying is they're going to get pictures from the news media, even if they didn't take any pictures themselves.
Okay, so Commander Dusterhoff took this picture of me for the news media?
No, you're not listening to what
Okay,
I'm
I'm-
saying.
All right, and then I'm not
Mr. Holt,
understanding.
did you have a comment?
Yes, I have a comment. It's my understanding that you said in order for them to take pictures that they need a legitimate reason, right?
It's my understanding.
Would you not consider protesters as being a legitimate reason to take pictures?
For the police
Yes, for
department?
the police department.
No, I don't
You
see
don't?
the reason for that,
You don't see reasons for that?
particularly of a photojournalist covering the protest.
You don't? Okay, thanks. I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
So, Mr. Anderson, would you say that potentially one of your concerns about needing to know more about the policies is because not only would these pictures potentially, be, used for a number of purposes we're not aware of, but in terms of how the Regional Intelligence Center or Fusion Center or any type of intelligence gathering entity, in terms of how they keep this information and how they use this information, I know that one concern that a lot of people have voiced about things like suspicious activity reports, et cetera, basically where information is filed away or stored by these intelligence gathering centers that isn't connected with any specific criminal activity, but simply because somebody thought something could be potentially suspicious, that a big concern of us not knowing more about these policies is that we don't know if 10 years from now, I might end up being caught up in the dragnet of some investigation because I once showed up at a protest 10 years ago. And so when we do a search through the database looking for, certain criteria, I get a hit because there's a photo of me that was taken and stored at one of these protests. Is that one of your concerns?
Well, sure, but I'm just wondering, what the purpose of and why the department needs a photograph of me stored.
Would you say that
Because I've asked officers, and I've been given the answer, everything from it's for personal use to you don't need to know. I've never gotten a straight answer from any of them.
okay. When you made your request to the APD where you received these photos, can you tell us a little bit more how you worded that request? What did you ask for specifically?
I asked for any documents or documents with my name in them, but I also asked for the specific photographs. The one that I received, I used Commander Dusterhoff's name, the time, and the place that the photo was taken. And then 6 of the other photos, or 5, the rest of the photos were at the same location. The video was a different location.
Okay. So you phrased it pretty broadly. You pretty much wanted anything that had your name,
Right.
your identity.
Right, and then I asked for the specifics,
Okay.
the specific photos.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Kent?
I've got a question. Do you remember, were you wearing any kind of press credentials?
Yes, I was. In fact, see them right here. One of them is the Texas Capitol credentials, and the other one's my Chronicle ID.
Okay, thank you.
One more person to speak directly to the budget, Cece Gratius. This is again APD's budget.